Hi, and this is Tormod, and I would like to talk about conflict, the word conflict, and how I experience conflict. Uh, I had just recently I had this case study of going into conflict. I uh, I was uh, I was doing a talk in front of about 15 or 20 people about a certain topic. I was talking to these people, and the experience of talking to people, to a crowd, I was going into a polarity of positivity. I went into a polarity of positivity from hearing my own words, from listening to my own sound of my own voice. And so I went into this positive experience of myself, feeling good of myself, feeling that I matter, that I am valued, and that I am important, and give myself self-worth, sort of like on false premises, that I were like energetic, that was bubbling over, sort of positivity, which is math and a polarity. Because once it reaches such a point of positivity, it is an extra, it is something more than what it was there before. It is an extra, it is something that the body doesn't naturally absorb, it is an extra, it is metaphysical, it is an object, it is physicality, it is positivity, it is a polarity. So, when I experienced this highness of positivity within doing a talk, I did not realize that I was going into this high. I was just swallowing it. I was just sucking it in. All the stuff that came about during my talk, I was just absorbing it all I could, and the rest was positivity, which was almost hidden from my eyes, from programming, from my experience. I didn't notice that I was going into a positive experience. What I failed to take into consideration was that after I had this positive experience, the polarity, the math, the nature of polarity is that if you have a positive experience of a polarity, you're going to have a negative experience of polarity because of the polarity, because of the balance point of polarity, plus and minus, up and down, and so on. So one day later or 2 days later, I started to experience conflict. And I had about 3 or 4 small or large conflict with other people. So my polarity of that experience of high from doing a talk went into a polarity of conflict as a negative, as the emotion of conflict with other people. And I had 2 or 3 really bothersome and nasty conflicts going on, which was really hurtful to me and other people to experience. So from that polarity construct, I went into first a positive high during and after my talk, and then later on, because of this non-accumulative energy that is a polarity, positivity, I went into the negative polarity, being a conflict within myself, being conflict with other people. So I was made aware of this by my friend, and so that I could realize that, okay, I had already created this manifestation, this consequence. This consequence was already here of a negative consequence, negative polarity, negative consequence. I had to just stand it out, let it play out gently and commonsensical, and then move on like I'm doing here now, sharing with you my experience of this and how I hope that, or that I expect that this negative polarity, this negative experience will soon be over. And mind myself next time I'm doing talks to not just suck in all the energy that I am served by myself and others, but to realize that if I take in the positive experience, the plus, the positivity, whatever my body cannot naturally absorb, that extra, that metaphysical, that object is then a positive experience. And within that positive experience, there is a negative polarity of math, of nature, that I have to expect and be aware of, that will come if I take in the positive. You can't have one without the other. It's a basic understanding of math, nature, and polarity. So, that is my experience of conflict recently. I also understand that the word conflict is a sort of a particular dimension of emotions. I needed to look into conflict and also to look into the solution of conflict, which is sort of embracement. And I had actually, of one of the people that I had a argument with, a conflict with, I shared a very good hug. And within that was also the nice experience of being even, being equals, reconciling, healing effect of a hug. From the first going into conflict, and then waving the white flag, if you like, and then calling the quits and being equal, being even with it. So, most of all, I learned that polarity is real. The pin needle is real. The battery is real. If you have plus as calculated energy, you will have the negative. It is a math. It's a law of nature. It's a law of polarity and of nature and polarity. So if you have this like color or thing or object or imagination or whatever that is like the good stuff, the positive stuff, there is also always the negative that you may be suppressing or denying and serving and projecting onto others, and so on and so on and so on. Conflict. It is to me, conflict is like almost going into reactions over some stubbornness or validating itself within the conflict and building and building and building these reactions and aggression. It's really no fun to experience. And but the solution to conflict is reconciliation and then building peace or establishing peace and healing. So it's an interesting word indeed, and yeah. So that is my experience of having success from doing a talk in front of audience, experiencing the positive high, the feeling high positivity, and not seeing or ignoring that if I have positive, if I have a positive experience of positivity, polarity, I will have the negative. It's a law of math, it's a law of polarity in nature. And to realize that and to see that as reality, as truth, as a law of math, law of nature. So consequence, and I had this consequence of conflict, and it was no fun. And if you're living in a polarity, which you might be, investigate that and check out destiny.org. Thank you very much for listening.